How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. It's been a long week, so weekend is
Well,
almost
it's
yeah
Friday. Yeah.
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 And I had to talk to Kingsley yesterday, so that was a whole thing.
Kingsley. Oh,
Yeah,
I miss
no,
him already.
it's funny. I was doing the minor prep work, and I was like, I think I've spoke to him before, and I looked it up, and it was like it was 4 years ago, so the whole world was different.
Oh
And
my gosh, yeah, it was. What was
yeah,
that for?
it was for one night in Miami, so none of us wore pants, so it was just was such a specific time because you'd be like, "How are you?" and everyone would pause for a second because you really wanted to be like, "Pretty fucking bad."
Yeah. Yeah. Oh gosh, I remember that. Yeah.
Different degrees of bad. How bad are you?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So it's fun to do it, now when like a little bit more normal.
Yeah.
Thing I was thinking about when I looked at, your career is one, it's just all bangers, but the the way the industry works, it's funny, this was not an inexpensive movie. The Woman King wasn't an inexpensive movie, but I gotta imagine they feel like indie movies at this point compared to a giant production, when there's no time to do anything but act, as opposed to I'll be here, you tell me when it's time. Does it feel different when you're making a movie like this and you're like, everything's on the screen? It's just there's no other time. We have to just make a movie.
Hmm. So I learned when I shot No Time to Die, and me and Daniel Craig spoke in between
Yeah.
takes about this being an indie movie with loads of money.
Yeah.
And that really, I don't know if you know this, but it really stuck with me as a way of putting everything into perspective.
Oh
Of
yeah.
course, when you do a studio movie, everything is like broader, wider, budgets are higher, there's more wheels in the like cog in the wheels. But um, I'd like to think that in order to stay grounded as a person,
Yeah.
everything has to seem a little bit like an indie. I come from theatre, so it's actually more of a comforting thought for me to think that
Yeah.
everything is like an indie. It's, everything should be approached like it's intimate because
Yeah.
when we're on set, we want everything to be as closed and as safe and as protected as possible. And actually, when you think about studio films down the line, especially this time award season, you talk about how protected, you are, how protected we need to, be about the craft and about where the industry's going, etc. So with this, it was no different. It's an intimate, beautiful, complicated story that when you watch it, of course, it's on a big screen and feels very large, but actually the stories are very, very small. It's about family and love and all of the things that, humans desire with all of the complications in and around it. Um,
And yeah, I was about to say just to make it that way is hard. And when I was talking to him yesterday, he was talking about how, having the ability to have Ziggy there or someone else to like give the thumbs up and go, yep, that works. And it's not that it means it was the exact line or the exact moment. It was that feels right. And when it feels right, you can explore as opposed to if you guys in a scene are so concerned with this has to be just the way it happened. And if I move my head the wrong way, it's going to ruin it. You have to be able to do the acting and then to be able to turn and have someone go that felt like my family, that felt like my friend. I imagine
mm.
also is just like I can do anything now. Like it gives you the freedom that you need to be able to still to tell a story people want to see, as opposed to a really expensive family portrait. There's something about when it captures the ideas and the feels, and someone who doesn't know the man can have the same reaction as someone who does.
Yes. Yes, there is an immense amount of pressure that you can put on yourself as an artist when telling a story like this. Um, I'm from a Jamaican background, so already I'm like, I have to make sure this story is like the best Jamaican story ever.
I go home if I
Um,
get it wrong.
exactly, exactly. So when you are questioning a choice of yours, or you're wondering if, Rita Marley would make this decision in this moment, if she would talk to Bob in that way, um, you turn around after a take and you see Ziggy Marley just put his thumbs up, and you're like, that's their whole son. Like, I don't really think I can get, even if I'm questioning the choice, I don't can't get much better than the validation of the family. And I don't know if, unless I do a biopic again, I don't know if we'll ever get that experience whereby you feel like the whole history of the person you're playing is in the moment, every single moment that you're playing them. And it was just so unbelievably additive to have the family involved, to have Ziggy there. Sadella was also on set at times. Me and Sharon were messaging really early on, and just the children in general, it's just they've tried so hard to successfully uphold their father's and their mother's legacy. And now seeing them, I don't know, firsthand experience how much care and dedication has been put into this film, from the studio all the way up until the crew on the set that cared so much about their intimate experience with Bob Marley. It was really, really special. So I don't know, I can't even imagine what the set would be like without
Yeah.
them.
Well, they,
um
yeah, and they, everybody has their version of Bob. Everyone has their version of almost anyone that you're playing in a film, and it's never
yeah.
going to be one in the movie because that's just not the way it works. And also just in human nature, like I hate when someone tells a story that involving me and they don't get the details right because I'm like, no, that's not what, even if it doesn't make the story better. So to be there and to be able to have that, I don't even know what skill it is in life to watch a scene and be like, it's not how it happened. I was there, but they go, the feelings are right, and I know that I'm one of six people who will care. And ultimately,
Mm,
because that we hear so much about when that's not the case, and that's why you have
mm,
that won't have the music or the movie that they have to use a different name. You're like, who's Mob? Why can't you just say Bob? Like it's to be able to have that all, but also clearly to be able to kind of take a step back and be like, I understand you're making a movie and you guys have to create, and it is still a creative process, is like better man than I am, I think.
yeah, that's the complicated thing about biopics. There's so many opinions and
Yeah.
so many versions of this person that the world thinks that they know. And sometimes, you watch a scene and you're like, oh, that is exactly the Bob that
Yeah.
I grew up with. And, I went to the concert in 76 and that's the experience I had. And then other times, I think it's important to really like stretch your brain as an audience member to remember that we are humanizing this person. And in
Yeah.
order to humanize them, you are going to be privy to moments that are grisly and ugly um, and don't fit within the box of the person you've
Oh, yeah.
imagined in your record player and your CD player, back in the day. And I think that's good because this film has been like an education for not only us but for the masses. In that, like, I don't even know if I knew Bob. I'm Jamaican, and I don't think I knew anything about his, like, what he really, really stood for. Not
Yeah.
just the kind of don't worry, be happy version of Bob Marley that makes us feel comforted,
Oh,
but the
yeah.
way in which he fought for himself, his life, his family, his country, and the way that he pushed boundaries within the music industry. There was so much done, and I think we've hopefully like changed the landscape of parts of this industry that you know make you feel like everything has to fit in a box for you to feel
Oh, yeah.
comfortable, or for the consumers to feel comfortable. From a producerial perspective, it's really important that we keep stretching our minds and not just give the audience what we want, but give them what they need. And I
Oh, yeah.
think this film was like a version of what audiences actually need. So
Oh, yeah.
hopefully we'll seek more when we watch films in the
Well,
future.
Well, because yeah, like you said, everyone has their version. Everyone has the box they've decided, and whether it's I don't listen to the song as politically, like, well, that doesn't mean that they weren't thinking about when they made it. It's like when Born in the USA
Yes.
came out, and people are like, what a pro-America song from Bruce Springsteen. You're like, oh, you didn't listen
Mm,
to the lyrics. Like that man is mad. Like
mm,
you can have that opinion, but it doesn't negate what their experience was. And it is funny when audiences, like we said, they kind of need as opposed to want, sometimes want the very like, well, just tell me what I already knew. You're like, but why are you watching it? But also at the same time, why do you have such a strong opinion about fictional characters? People have very strong
ah,
opinions about your character in No Time to Die. You're like, we made this up. They didn't exist until somebody started writing on a piece of paper. Here's a movie about a person who did exist, and it needs to like dot the i's and cross the t's in your way and not in a way that will be broadly like it's just such
mhm.
an interesting audience thing where you want to, like you said, you want to bring them along, and it's how far can you go without alienating them. And I think when you do it well, people don't even know they've been led by the hand. They just go like, oh no, I didn't think about them that way.
Yes, and it will be the same people that struggled to stretch their brains many years ago with like a
Oh yeah.
female 007 or a black Miss Honey or any character that is, played by an actor that that doesn't
Wasn't
fit the
in their
exact
head.
bill.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. And then turn around and be like, wow, I can't believe that this, over 6 foot man who doesn't look like Bob whatsoever, apart from being mixed race, and that's Kingsley's words,
Yeah.
and doesn't physically fit his build, but actually really captured the essence of Bob.
Yeah.
That is exactly the thing that we want to have audiences leave the cinema with, which is just the essence, the feeling um, of the history or of the person, or of a looking through the keyhole kind of experience that really reminds you that you're not in this person's life. They're
Yeah.
just on your record player at home in the 90s or the 80s or whenever it was. That was also you at a different time.
Oh, yeah.
People may have been in their teens when they first experienced Bob, and now they're still going back to that teen version of themselves when actually you're a different person now, so you have to experience them differently.
100%.
You know?
And in the same way that as an actor, you can't be obsessed with, well, how did they walk into a room? You can do that as part of the exercise, but if that's the only thing you're thinking about, sure, you'll get that right, but then there'll be nothing there to make it an interesting performance, to capture the essence. It'll just be an impression, and that's that same way, that people. Why does that matter? Like you said, if he doesn't look like him or he doesn't sound like him, does he feel like him? Do you feel like Rita? The people who knew Rita, that's way more important, and just makes me think how funny it is that obviously you had the like 007, you're like, it's a made up character, guys. But then Daniel had it with, he's blonde. How dare he? Like, you don't like the thing you like, do you?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on here? But I think in something like this, you can break through in a way that's different by just going, I'm going to have a scene where there's going to be a moment where they're going to see that character. Whether it's me or not, they're going to see the picture in their head, but come alive. And however that is, I think that's beautiful when it happens.
Yes, I think that there's an interesting balance to strike when you want to please the audience and give them, what they deserve as a consumer, but also stretch their belief systems within how this works
Yeah.
in the world, how we release projects, how we market projects. Is all a way to kind of make you think in a direction,
Yeah.
make you think like wider, more vast,
Yeah.
or to make you stay within the same place. Some things are there to make you stay within the same place, which is, I know this, it's a rom-com, I recognize it, I know the colors, I
Watch
know the
late at
characters.
night.
Say
Yeah.
that again.
You watch late at night laying in bed. You're like, I want something just to help me go to sleep.
Absolutely, because everything has its purpose.
Exactly.
But then there's also a massive reason for films like this that help you to question how you inhale things, how you inhale
Yeah.
product. And I'm just so glad that we were able to push the boundaries that we did, but also stay within the realm of, I know that guy, I think I recognize him, and also I think I recognize themes and narratives within the film that hopefully are going to make me question my morals and question how I love in the world and how I love in my relationships, and make me want to do better. As woo woo as that sounds, like you genuinely want films like this to make you want to do better as a human being, and also to humanize artists and figures like Bob Marley, to remind you that they're not just the person in your living room that you listen to when you're cleaning.
100%. Thank you so much for doing this. The fact that people are still interested in talking about the movie almost a year later is evidence that you're right about that. So you guys should all be
Absolutely.
proud.
Thank you. We are. We
Oh, I
are.
should
Thank
be.
you.
Thank you so much for doing this.
No worries. Thank you.
My pleasure.